The room was too quiet. Not the peaceful quiet from before. This was the stillness that comes after a fire, when the smoke settles and nothing feels real yet. Serafina sat on the bed, legs folded, a blanket around her shoulders. Her face was pale but calm. Her eyes, those wide, jade-green eyes, were locked on the man sitting across the room from her. Dmitry Romanov didn't pace, didn't shout. He simply sat in the armchair, elbows on his knees, fingers steepled beneath his chin. He was thinking, hard, and she didn't interrupt. Not yet. Finally, he spoke. "They're not going to let this go." His voice was low, controlled, but not cold. "You mean your people? They're not mine," he said sharply, then softer, "Not anymore." "Then whose are they?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood, walked to the window. "When I was 15, he said, I killed a man who threatened the only friend I had. No hesitation, no regret." Serafina stayed still. "But I learned something that day. That protection doesn't make you safe, it makes you a target. So you stopped protecting people?" "I stopped caring. Until me." He looked at her. There was no denial in his eyes, only guilt. "If we stay," he said, "they'll find us again. Then we leave." He blinked. She stood. "I don't want to die on a bridge, Dmitry, or in an alley, or in a room full of people who only know your name when they need someone dead. If I'm going to die, I want it to matter. You're not going to die. You can't promise that. I can." She stepped closer. "Then prove it. Don't just protect me. Leave with me." He didn't respond right away, but the words hung in the room like smoke. Leave. Run. For a man like him, it wasn't as simple as packing a bag. He didn't just walk away from the bratva, from blood, from memory. But then he looked at her, and something shifted. They began to plan. Not like lovers, like soldiers, quiet voices, simple steps, new identities, a place to disappear. Maybe the countryside, maybe farther, Germany or Spain, or somewhere warmer than this frozen place that had nearly swallowed them both. Dmitry made a list. Phone calls, contacts, people who still owed him favors, and weren't afraid to betray the ones who still believed he was loyal. Serafina packed what little she had: the scarf, the coat, a single book from the bookstore, the comb, the page of writing she hadn't thrown away after all. She placed it in her pocket, folded twice, just in case. The plan was to leave at sunrise, too early for anyone to follow, too dark for them to be spotted, but neither of them slept. Serafina sat by the window, knees pulled to her chest. Dmitry stood beside the bed, phone off, gun on the dresser. Finally, he crossed the room, sat beside her, not close, but not far. "You still don't trust me," he said. "No," she said honestly, "but I'm trying. That's more than I deserve. Maybe. Or maybe we both deserve more than we think." She turned her head slightly, met his gaze. "Why did you really take me in?" He didn't look away. "Because I saw a girl who should have been dead, and I realized I wasn't ready to live in a world that could let that happen. So you tried to save me." "No," he whispered. "I tried to save myself." Her breath caught. The silence that followed wasn't sharp this time. It was full, real. Sometime near dawn, he reached for her hand. She let him. No words, just fingers entwined beneath the rising silver light. And for one brief, impossible moment, they didn't feel like fugitives. They felt like something new, something unfinished, something brave. But far below them, across the street, a black car idled in the dark, and someone inside had a camera. And a list. And a single name circled in red: Serafina Whitlock. They left before the sun rose. The city still slept beneath frost and fog, the streets glimmering under sodium light. It was the kind of cold that bit straight through gloves, the kind that made you move fast or not at all. Dmitry carried nothing but a duffel bag. Inside, cash, fake passports, an unregistered pistol, and one faded photograph. Serafina carried less. Just the green coat, her scarf, and the folded paper she hadn't shown him. "I wrote something in case I died," she had almost said the night before. But she hadn't. And now wasn't the time. Their footsteps echoed as they walked through the back halls of the hotel. No elevators, no lobby, Dmitri had paid off the night concierge 3 days earlier. Cash, no questions. At the loading exit, a car waited. Not black, not sleek, just a plain, aging sedan with a dent in the rear door and a sticker on the bumper that read, "If you can read this, back off." Dmitri opened the door for her. Serafina hesitated. Looked back once. Room 317 was behind them now. Just a number, just a story. She got in and didn't look back again. They were 3 blocks from the hotel when the first car appeared. Black, shiny, no license plate. Dmitri saw it in the mirror. Hold on. The car swerved left, picked up speed. Serafina clutched the door handle. That's them? Yes. What do they want? To end what I started. The chase wasn't dramatic, not yet. No screeching tires, no gunshots, just shadow on wheels. Dmitri made 3 turns in rapid succession, south, then west, then again. You planned this, Serafina said. Always plan for betrayal. I meant the escape, that too. They passed through a tunnel, the light changed, the other car didn't follow. Serafina let out a slow breath. We lost them, we bought 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, the second car found them. This one didn't wait. It slammed into the back of their vehicle near Hyde Park. Serafina screamed, sharp, brief, real. Dmitri's hands were stone on the wheel. Get down, he barked. Now. She ducked. He reached under the seat, pulled the pistol free. What are you doing? Giving us time. Another impact. The car spun slightly, then straightened. Dmitri took a sharp right, down a narrow alley, through a set of metal bollards, glass shattered behind them. Then quiet. For a moment, nothing. Then they were clear. They parked the car beneath an overpass. Smoke curled from the hood. Dmitri turned off the engine, got out, opened her door. Are you okay? She nodded, but her body shook. He pulled her into his arms, held her tight. I'm sorry, he said into her hair. I didn't want it to start like this. It's okay, she whispered. You're here. Not for long, he muttered. We need to disappear. Fast. They switched cars again in an underground garage. Dmitri's contact, a wiry man with oil-stained hands, said nothing, just handed him the keys and took the wrecked sedan without question. Now they were in a nondescript van, the kind used for laundry or construction work. No seats in the back, just space and metal walls. They drove in silence. The city began to thin. Where are we going? Serafina asked at last. Portsmouth, that's hours away. We'll make it by dusk. I have a boat waiting. A boat? It's safer than airports. She looked at him. Where does it go? Does it matter? Yes, she said. Because I'm not just running anymore, I'm choosing. He looked at her then. A long, quiet glance. France, he said finally. For now. Then we'll see. Okay. They didn't talk much after that. They stopped once, for fuel and because Serafina needed to breathe. She stood near the edge of a wooded stretch off the motorway, her arms folded, breath fogging in the cold. Dmitri stood beside her, watching the trees. Do you regret it? She asked. What? Taking me in? He didn't answer for a while. No, he said softly. You're the only thing I don't regret. Her chest tightened. I'm scared, she admitted. Good, he said. That means you still care what happens next. By the time they reached Portsmouth, the sky was bleeding orange into gray. The boat waited at a private dock, the kind that didn't ask for names. An old man greeted them. No words, just a nod. Dmitri handed him a packet of cash. Serafina looked out at the water. Have you ever done this before? What? Run. For someone else. He shook his head. No, only for myself, until now. She touched his hand. Then let's run together. The boat pulled away just after sunset. Serafina stood at the bow, the wind tangling her hair. Dmitri stood beside her, gun under his coat, jaw tense. Neither of them spoke, but as the city vanished behind them, swallowed by fog and waves, they both felt it, not peace, not yet, but possibility. And for 2 broken things, that was enough to keep moving. The boat reached France just before dawn. It pulled into a small private dock nestled between jagged cliffs and pine-covered hills. the sea still murmuring behind them like a memory. No harbors, no customs, no questions, just gray stones, cold sand, and the sound of gulls calling above the mist. Serafina stepped off the boat barefoot, her boots in hand, the morning air slicing through the silence. Dmitri followed, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, his face unreadable. They didn't speak at first, not until they reached the edge of the beach, where a narrow dirt road twisted up into the hills. "This is where it starts," he said. She looked at him. "Where what starts? Whatever life we choose next." They didn't take a taxi, didn't call anyone. They walked, through pine forest trails, through sleepy villages where no one looked too closely, past shuttered bakeries and old churches and dogs that barked from behind iron fences. By noon they arrived at a cottage, old, stone, vines climbing the walls, a chimney that coughed smoke and windows that blinked in the sunlight like eyes just waking. "It was safe once," Dmitri said, unlocking the rusted door. "Still might be." Inside, wooden beams, dusty floors, a fireplace, 2 rooms, a kettle with no lid, a table with one uneven leg. Serafina ran her fingers along the windowsill. "It's beautiful." He looked at her. "It's broken," she smiled faintly. "So am I." They spent the day in quiet. He started a fire. She washed the dishes left behind by whoever had lived here last. He cleared out a spare drawer. She folded the few clothes they had into it. They didn't talk about what came next, because right now they were just here. That evening, Serafina sat on the front step, arms wrapped around her knees, hair braided and pulled over one shoulder. The sun was setting beyond the trees, turning the sky into spilled gold. Dmitri joined her. He didn't sit close, but close enough. "You're thinking," he said, "always. About what?" She was quiet for a moment. Then, that if we'd met differently, maybe I'd have fallen in love with you slower. The words hung in the air. He didn't respond, not with words. He reached for her hand, held it, and she let him. Later, inside, she found an old notebook in one of the drawers. The pages were yellowed, half blank. She flipped to the first clean page and began to write. Not like before, not out of fear or grief, but to remember. "Today we made tea in a chipped mug and it still tasted like safety. He smiled once and I wasn't afraid. Maybe I'm not running anymore. Maybe I'm returning to something I forgot I was allowed to want." Dmitri didn't ask what she was writing. He just lit another log in the fireplace, removed his coat, and sat across from her in the flickering light. "You're healing," he said after a while. She looked up. "How can you tell? You look like someone who wants to be seen again." They didn't sleep apart that night, not from fear, not from exhaustion, but because in the quiet, in the warmth, in the aftershock of escape, they realized something. They didn't have to be alone anymore, not unless they chose to be. Outside, the trees rustled gently in the wind. The cottage breathed, and for the first time in a long time, so did they. It started with a knock, soft, 3 taps, polite, almost gentle, but it was enough to stop the air in Serafina's lungs. She looked up from the table where she was slicing bread. The knife trembled slightly in her grip. Outside, the wind howled against the stone cottage walls, but the knock was real, distinct, human. Dmitri was already at the door, gun drawn. "Stay back," he mouthed. She nodded, heart thudding. Another knock. "Who is it?" Dmitri called out. A pause, then a man's voice, heavily accented. "You left too many ghosts behind, Romanov. They're coming." He opened the door slowly, the pistol hidden behind his back. The man outside was older, gray coat, wrinkled face, eyes like chipped marble. He didn't flinch at the sight of Dmitri. Didn't smile either. "Alexei," Dmitri muttered. "You look older. So do you." "I brought what you asked for," the man said, stepping inside without invitation. "And something else." He handed over a small envelope, thick, sealed. "What is it?" Serafina asked, unable to keep the fear from her voice. Alexei looked at her, studied her, evidence, and a choice. The envelope contained photographs, documents, a map. names circled in red. One name crossed out. "They've put a bounty on you," Alexei said simply. "Half the underworld in Europe is looking for you both." Serafina felt her stomach drop. "Both of us?" "You're his weakness," Alexei said. "So you're a target." She sat down hard in the nearest chair. Dimitri's jaw tightened. He turned away, punched the wall. Once, not enough to break skin, just enough to feel. Later, after Alexei left, no promises, no goodbyes, Serafina stood in the hallway, watching Dimitri throw the envelope into the fire. The flames devoured the paper hungrily, names curled into ash. "They'll keep coming," she whispered. "I know. So what now?" He didn't answer at first, but then he turned. "We stop running. And do what? Fight." She stared at him. "With what?" "With the truth." That night they sat on the floor beside the fireplace, a bottle of old wine between them, two mismatched glasses, no dinner, no words for a while. Then Serafina spoke. "You never told me about your scar." He glanced at her, touched his neck instinctively. "Bullet. Not meant for me. Why did you keep it?" "Because I want to remember who I was when I got it." "And who was that?" He met her gaze. Alone. She reached out, touched the scar gently. "You're not alone anymore." His hand covered hers. "Neither are you." They kissed for the second time that night. Not with hunger, but with ache, with questions. With the slow trust of two people who knew what it meant to lose everything and still want something more. Afterward, they lay in bed, facing each other. No need for words, but Serafina whispered anyway, "I'm scared." Dimitri didn't pretend to have answers. He just nodded. "So am I." She pressed her forehead to his. "Then we fight scared, together." Outside, the wind rose again, but the cottage walls held strong. And inside, two hearts beat not just for survival, but for something that might one day be called home.